And we're back with our political panel. Ruth Marcus is a columnist for the Washington Post. Ben Domenech is the publisher of the Federalist. Amy Walter is national editor of the Cook Political Report. And Jonathan Martin is national political correspondent for the New York Times. Jonathan, I want to start with you, which is, where are we this week? We were once talking about open conventions, and then boom, it's over. Trump's the nominee.
It seems that way, John. It seems that way. Unless something totally crazy happens and the delegates decide to try to change the rules and deny Trump the nomination, which seems to be very unlikely at this point. This is now Donald Trump's party. And that has, I think, come as a huge shock to a lot of folks in the party. I think one of the reasons why this week there was so much uncertainty about what to do about Trump is because there was this widespread assumption that Cruz would stay in the race through California, and that at least for a month or so, the party could collectively figure out how to approach a Trump nomination. Then boom, Tuesday, Cruz is out, Wednesday, Kasich's out, and they immediately have to say, what do we respond? How do we respond to this? What do we say? And do we endorse them? Do we hang back? Do we not endorse them? And that's why I think you saw this brutal state of confusion this last week.
Amy, Paul Ryan is a part of the state of confusion. The Speaker of the House is not ready to embrace the nominee, essentially, of the party. And yet you've got the chairman of the party, Ryan Priebus, saying everybody should come together. Is this just, as Jonathan said, there's a lot of, this came faster than people thought? Or is there a genuine...
I think there's a genuine break in this party, and I don't think the party is going to look the same in 2017 as it does today. And there's a break on ideology, there's a break on tone, there's a break on style that's been brewing. Jonathan wrote about it this week. This is not new to the Republican Party. There have been factions that have been fighting with each other for quite some time about the direction and the tone of the party. Donald Trump didn't invent it, but he walked into the room filled with gasoline and he threw a match on it, and now it's exploded, and people are going to have to decide where they end up in this. I think Paul Ryan is making it pretty clear he's going to do two things. One, in the short term, protect his members from what could be a very difficult fall with Trump on the top of the ticket, especially in swing suburban districts, and also to say, here's where I stand. This is where I am in the party. I'm going to stand over here. Trump wants to be here, that's fine, but this is my part of the party.
To Amy's point, in August of last year, I wrote a piece for the Federalist that outlined basically the choice that I felt there was within the Republican coalition between a traditional message of freedom, limited government, the things that Paul Ryan stands for, and a new branch of essentially European-style white identity politics. I think the Republican Party has decided to go in a certain route, and now Paul Ryan has to make a decision for himself, but he's looking out for his own members, defending them because he can take it within the context of this criticism. And that's something that a role he's going to have to play for them, likely through the fall, if Trump runs a campaign that actively undermines their agenda.
But, this was a pretty extraordinary week for the Republican Party. If you're a Republican voter, you're watching 3 out of the last 4 guys you voted for president saying can't go there, and the 4th looked not too happy about saying he was going to be for the nominee. You looked at the Speaker of the House saying what he had to say. But I would actually suggest that, at least in the short term, this week might be peak anti-Trump moment, that just because the pressure is what the pressure is, Reince Priebus has a job to do in uniting the party, and you're going to see more and more members and members of the establishment and members of Congress put to the test, kind of swallowing and going down the Trump road.
The assumption was that the safe place politically to be was to find a way to get behind Trump. But I think Trump's making that calculation more difficult now. If you look at his behavior the last 5 days and what he is saying, it's very clear that he's not changing his approach. That this is somebody who only knows one song, and that's what he's going to play. And if you're a Republican, you see that, and you see him mocking Elizabeth Warren for not being a true native American, calling her goofus, savaging Lindsey Graham, and Paul Ryan offers fairly mild critique, and he just lashes back. If you see that behavior, and you have already said that you, quote, endorse the nominee, you have to be feeling a little bit uneasy this weekend.
Let me just, hold on, let's take a look at something Donald Trump has said recently about women that gets at this unpredictability that Jonathan's just talked about.
She's playing the women's card. She's going, did you hear that Donald Trump raised his voice while speaking to a woman? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, all of the men, we're petrified to speak to women anymore. We may raise our voice. You know what? The women get it better than we do, folks. All right? They get it better than we do.
Amy, Hillary Clinton said she's not going to run a negative campaign against Donald Trump, but he's running won against her.
Yeah, well, she has some great options, which is she doesn't have to. She's going to have a lot of people doing it for her, namely the super PACs. Plus, Donald Trump is her best hope right there. If you look at where Donald Trump is right now with women voters, we keep talking about this over and over again. He's at minus 75, minus 79%, just in terms of favorability ratings. But more dramatically, Hillary Clinton is doing that much better among white women. I think it's 21 points better with white women voters than Obama did against Mitt Romney. And this is the challenge for Donald Trump going forward. However, I will say I did sit down recently. There are focus groups of women voters in suburban Philadelphia, suburban Pittsburgh. They're not in love with Hillary Clinton, okay? And a lot of, even the Pittsburgh, these were Republican women who we talk about, maybe she peels them off. They are finding an easier way to excuse his behavior than to accept Hillary Clinton.
But he just seems to me to be making his bad women's situation worse by the day. He's got 3 arguments against Hillary Clinton. One seems to be actually a very strong and resonant argument, which is crooked Hillary. But the other 2, she's not qualified, she's only there because she's a woman, is insulting, I think, not just to Hillary Clinton, but to other women who are hearing it. And then the argument that, we can't even talk back to, we can't say anything about women and they've got it so much better than us. Not gonna work. And I think we're seeing the contours of this election come together, crooked Hillary versus dangerous Donald, but he'd do much better to sort of concentrate on crooked Hillary and leave the other stuff alone when it comes to women.
You know, it seems to me that the real problem, the real question for Donald Trump right now is if he's even interested in unifying his party.
Yeah,
because he seems to give a lot of indications that he is more in the category that says, I'm going to win despite the people who are maybe currently opposed to me. Part of the issue, to Jonathan's point earlier, is that normally after parties have fractious elections like this, the divides are over ideology. They're not over whether your wife is ugly and your dad helped kill JFK. It's more the kind of thing.
And your husband is a philanderer.
Exactly. And the other thing is that there's a situation now with Trump where a lot of these politicians who have to think about their long-term future are looking at Trump worried about the idea that they're going to be on stage with him while he's saying something like this, and they'll ultimately have to defend him. That's something that for politicians who are looking in the long game, in the very short term, there's going to be pressure, but the more that he says these things, the easier it is to say, I'm going to wait and see.
He's making this a which side were you on moment for the Republican Party.
Meaning everybody has to speak up and say, are you for or against Donald Trump?
It's going to be a rolling which side were you on moment. How do you feel about this comment and this comment and this comment?
We're going to hold that right there. We're going to have more comments from all of you and the rest of our panel discussion. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Nation. We're back with Ruth Marcus of the Washington Post and Ben Domenech of the Federalist, Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report, and Jonathan Martin of the New York Times. Jonathan, I want to start with you. With Paul Ryan's going to meet with Donald Trump this week. So is he going to get to yes? Are we going to have unity by the end of the week?
I think it's possible, but I think Trump's making it harder on Ryan. I think the most telling moment of this last week was how Trump responded to Paul Ryan. Because Paul Ryan said he couldn't support him yet, but he wanted to. He wanted to hear more about Trump's convictions. And instead of responding in a sort of gracious way or ignoring it entirely, he responded first with a paper statement saying, I'm not sure I can support the Ryan agenda. And then on the stump, constantly bringing up Ryan and saying, I thought we were okay. What's going on here? Trump is proving that he is unable, at least so far, to make the pivot that some of his folks were talking about what's going to happen. And so I think if Ryan does this, it's going to be for purely partisan reasons. If
this being getting behind Donald Trump.
Trump has made clear that he's not going to change his mind. He told us for a story today that he is not going to change his agenda to satisfy Paul Ryan because the people want his agenda, not Paul Ryan's, and their agendas are totally different. And on tone, certainly Ryan and Trump differ. So what's the rationale beyond partisanship?
That's right. I mean, Trump does have the more recent validation from the voters.
Absolutely.
All the 10 million of them. Ben, what Jonathan says is right on trade, on entitlements, on down the line. Paul Ryan is just on the opposite end on issues from Donald Trump.
He is, and the troubling aspect of the situation is that if Trump has a path, and I do believe he has a path to the presidency, it requires him to appeal to Rust Belt states where an economic agenda that is actually even further left than where he currently is going to be appealing. That's why I believe you already saw him shifting on the minimum wage conversation and things of that nature that are going to lead to even more breaks with Ryan down the line. That is going to make it harder and harder to have these agendas paired up against each other, one from the House Republicans and one from the nominee of their party.
Amy, what do you think the map does look like? The electoral map, we're now talking about a general election. Does Donald Trump put new states in play?
So you can go to cookpolitical.com, put that
Good plug.
for our plug for our new map, where we have it starting right now with Hillary Clinton with 304 electoral votes. Obviously, you need
Well over
270
the
to win.
270.
Well over the 270, because what she is able, I think, to cement in the new map is those diversifying states like Virginia, North Carolina. And she also holds on to the Rust Belt states. I think the challenge for Trump with the Rust Belt states is that a National Journal did a great look at this. They said if we gave, they did a study and they said, and dug into the voter files, if we gave Trump every single vote that Mitt Romney won in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and then added on top of that every white voter who does not turn out in 2012 or who's an irregular voter, that they don't turn out consistently, he would still lose those states because they are not monolithic. There are not enough white working class voters, even in Rust Belt states, to win the nomination. Now, does it help him win a place like Iowa, New Hampshire? Yeah, perhaps. But the big states with the electoral votes, Florida, et cetera, those are tough to win with just white voters.
What do you think, Ruth, about this idea of a third party? There's been talks. Mitt Romney has been talking to Republicans about running as a third party candidate. Do you think there's anything in that?
No, I think that it's sort of good therapy for the people in the Republican Party who are understandably concerned about Trump as the head of their
Stages
party
of grief.
to be talking about, but the practical realities of getting on the ballot or hijacking another party to get on their ballot just don't make sense, and the implications probably of who gets elected there and who it helps and who it hurts probably don't make sense. And so
Meaning that it would help Hillary
It would
Clinton.
help Hillary Clinton, and what Republicans really want to be consumed with that. And just to sort of ratify what Amy said about the map, the problem with the theory that Trump can expand the map is that the places that he could expand the map have a shrinking pool of people that he could appeal to. So those white working class voters are diminishing.
I certainly agree with you that it's a challenge, but I also think that in this conversation about the third party side, there's two aims that you would have with that. One would be to prevent either candidate from getting to the point where they would have enough electoral votes, so it could throw it to the House of Representatives along the lines of what happened in the early 1800s. But you could also see a situation with that where they simply want a candidate on the ballot so that Republican voters who are opposed to Trump will turn out, supporting down ticket candidates.
But I think we also have to recognize that there are challenges too for Hillary Clinton, and I think that what she's very good at is she's a good fastball hitter. But Donald Trump isn't going to throw fastballs. He's going to throw a lot of junk. He's got a file in his in his glove right now. He's filing the ball down, and he's putting Vaseline on it, and hitting those is going to be a lot more complicated than just
The
throwing a
Clintons,
fastball.
the Clintons are going to be forced to account for his affairs with other women in a way that they have not for a long time, because Trump is going to keep bringing that issue up again and again and again. And the question is, with Bill Clinton being one of her most prominent surrogates, how do they respond to that? How does President Obama respond to that question when he's asked that question too? I mean, this is going to be part of the conversation now, and Trump's going to ensure that.
I just want to say one quick
Junk ball,
thing about
exactly.
that is, Hillary Clinton told you that she didn't feel like she was running against Donald Trump. She is sure going to feel that way by the end of this campaign. But I think for Donald Trump to be constantly bringing up Bill Clinton's affairs is going to turn out kind of like it turned out for Republicans in impeachment, not a winning argument for him.
But it does just create more of a uncertain campaign for it. It's what Amy said. It's just this junk ball approach that how do you hit that stuff, because it's just not very familiar for her.
But Ben, if I'm a Republican running in a purple state that Barack Obama won, and there's all of this craziness at the presidential level, what am I going to do?
Yeah, that's the real question that they're all dealing with right now, and they haven't really figured out the answer yet. I think what you're probably going to see is perhaps something that looks along the lines of what you saw in 1996 as it got closer to the election. People started talking openly about ticket splitting, the idea that you need to reelect us so that we will keep either a President Trump honest or that we'll keep Hillary honest, that kind of thing. And that's going to be a very difficult thing for a lot of these different Republicans who are running and who are currently having to to make a decision about their own path going forward. Just one more point, though, on the Democratic side. It's fine to say that Hillary Clinton is better positioned, and she certainly is at this point. But the truth is that the ideological divide within the Democratic Party actually proved to be more significant than I think almost anybody expected this time around with Bernie Sanders' success. The fact is that Donald Trump dispatched. I think it'll be interesting to see how many young voters find it difficult to be turned out by Hillary Clinton in this election. I think it'll be something that she's going to have to work on. It won't happen automatically.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks to all of you. We'll be right back.